Hello, Owsley Panthers. This is Coach Strong providing you with your first official notes video for 8th grade science. The topic, what's a WINTD? You may or may not have heard your science teachers mention the term WINTD in class since you've come back to school. Assuming you read the information about grades in science, you definitely saw that the WINTD falls under the category of minor grades, which is worth 30% of your science average. But what is it? Great question! In science, we incorporate parts of a flipped, blended, and self-paced classroom. The WINTD is your weekly checklist that shows you what you are expected to complete for the entire week. The paper is actually called What I Need to Do This Week, but we say WINTD for short. So, you will get a different WINTD sheet every week. We also color code them, so each week will be a different color. The purpose of the WINTD sheet is to give you a checklist of the assignments and activities you have to complete that week. Some of these may be done with partners or groups or as a class. Others may be done individually. It just depends on what the assignment is or what the activity is. There are a couple of different benefits for learners that are using the WINTD sheet in science class. One is that each resource is only a portion of your grade for the week. So if you're a learner who struggled with turning in assignments in the past, you don't get penalized as harshly if for some reason you don't get everything done. If you're a quick learner, you have the opportunity to possibly get ahead of the class or go at your faster pace compared to the class's slower pace. If you are a slower learner or you take more time to do things, you have the opportunity to prioritize what's most important by how much it's worth, and you have more opportunities to go at a slower pace so you can really make sure you understand things. Here are some important things to know about the WINTD sheet. You get one sheet per week. As I stated before, we color code our sheets. So every week will be a different color, and we'll restart them at the end of the 6 weeks. It shows assignments and how much each assignment is worth. So when you get your WINTD sheet, not only will you be able to see every assignment that we're doing in class, but you'll also be able to see if and how much points each thing is worth for your WINTD grade or your weekly grade in class. When you complete an assignment, sorry, that was bugging me. When you complete an assignment, you get a stamp, and that means you've earned the full amount of points for that assignment. This is provided that you've completed it correctly. It is possible that your teacher may write in less points for incomplete work, or if it's something that is being checked for correctness. Sometimes your instructions or details may be on the WINTD sheet, but if they're not, full instructions and details will be posted in Canvas. You also will have electronic copies of resources in Canvas so that if you happen to lose a paper and your teacher is out of copies, if we have electronically, you have access to it. One other thing about your WINTD sheet is that it has suggested due dates, and those are when you should be finished with an assignment if you're working at a standard 8th graders or a typical 8th graders pace. It is suggested, so you can technically complete it before or after the suggested date or complete it at your pace, but that is at teacher discretion because there are some times that we do things that must be done by a certain date. They're time sensitive. Your teacher will let you know when that's the case. This year, we have weekly questions on the back, and those are your reflection questions. They are questions that you answer to reflect over the concepts that were covered that week. The expectation is that by the end of the week, if you are understanding the material, you should be able to answer the questions. They count as a separate grade, and they fall under the participation category, which is 20% of your average. The weekly questions is more so for your teachers to be able to see where you're at in your understanding of what we learned that week. Lastly, there are 2 copies of your WINTD sheet on one page. There is a student copy that will be your personal checklist and will stay in your journal. There's also the teacher copy, which you will cut out and turn into your teacher every week. It has the weekly questions on the back. Lastly, please remember that we do not accept work that is over 2 weeks late. So make sure you are getting your work done in a timely manner and make sure it's not more than 2 weeks late. Otherwise, your teacher won't take it. Finally, here is an example of your WINTD sheet. This is actually the first one you're going to be getting. Every week, we will number it based off of the 6 weeks and the week in the 6 weeks. So, for example, this week is 1.1. You'll have the dates. You'll have your learning targets for the week, which is another opportunity for you to be able to see whether or not you've learned everything or that you can do everything that you should be able to do by the end of the week. In the table on the left, you have your resources, then your suggested due date. Then you have the space where your teacher will either initial or stamp if you have completed it and earned the full points. And then you see how many points that you've earned out of how many points it's possible to earn. Sometimes we include assignments on here that don't actually count towards your weekly grade, but that's just so that you know you still have other things that you need to do. Here's your first set of weekly questions. Like I said, this is more so a way for your teachers to see where you're at the end of the week, and it is its own grade, so you do have to do it, or I should say you are expected to complete it when you turn in your WINTD sheet. So, that's it. Now you know a little bit about the WINTD. Of course, if you have any questions, you always should ask your teacher. The expectation for this video is that you've written that important information and maybe some other things I said down in the notes section of your Cornell notes. We will be processing it during class so that you can come up with your questions and your summary.